Hello and welcome to Cards and Coaching. This time I would like to explain a little bit more about coaching itself. So there's a difference, or there are more differences between coaching and counseling, and as I go along with my videos, I would like to explain those differences too. So let's imagine again an example. There is someone who comes to my place and has a problem about he doesn't know whether he should move away from his parents or not. And so we are trying, first of all, to find out what is underlying the whole thing and also to find out what steps can be made for him to find his own solution. So, coaching is rarely only one session. Normally, between 3 and 5 sessions is a normal coaching. There might be more, there might be less, but that's about the average. And in this case, if I'm using cards, which doesn't mean that I'm always using cards for coaching, if I'm using cards, then I let people choose the cards. So it's not that they are going to pick them while the cards, where you see the back of the cards, but I'm going to let them really take a look at the cards and choose cards, those that they like and those that they don't like at all. So that is a good way to find images that trigger them. Is this working? Yes. Elsewhere I wouldn't bring up the idea. The point is that a lot of things um, are in our subconscious, and images are a very good way to trigger that subconscious, especially if the person may have a problem to talk about the problem itself. If he doesn't know how to find the right words, an image can help him to say, okay, that is exactly the point, or there's something that is intriguing me. And then we are talking about the picture and also not being confronted immediately face to face with me, but we have something um, we can concentrate on, and I can help in such situations. So at this moment, I would like to open a bracket. A subject that comes up very often is the question if a client, a customer, has the right to touch the cards. And I know of a lot of people who use tarot and who say that a client doesn't have the right to touch those cards. I am absolutely against that idea because I think that if the client should get an idea about the cards and should become in a certain way at ease with the cards, it should be okay for a client to touch those cards, to consider them to be either as so holy that you do not have it, an unholy person, an unholy client, customer doesn't have the right to touch the cards is for me quite an arrogant way to meet customers and clients. Also, the belief that their energies are lower or not as good as your own. Come on. For me, this is not a way to treat a client. I might be in a bad mood for a moment, and then my energies are maybe in a worse state than the ones of the client. And it is, for me, a sign of respect to say, okay, this is a tool. We're going to work with those cards together, and so the other one might have the possibility to touch the cards too. Does that mean that I let people shuffle the cards? No, but there are other reasons for that one. I have seen people trying to shuffle the cards. The tarot cards are often bigger than normal playing cards, so they have problems because they are not used to shuffle the cards, and then cards fall out and they become uneasy with it. So in a normal counseling, I am shuffling the cards. I let the client still touch the cards to choose the cards, and in a coaching, when the person has the right to really choose and look at every card, at every image, I give the cards into their hands, knowing and still having an eye on it if the person has a problem with it or not. But this typical, no one else has the right to touch my cards, for me, honestly, it is nonsense. It is a disrespect from person to person, and is something that I, for my part, cannot accept if I want to treat my clients properly. So, in my example, the client has chosen several cards he likes, several cards he doesn't like, and we are going to use them to find out a little bit more about what is really keeping him from moving or from hesitating and so on. There is one thing that is very important in this moment. The meaning of the cards, as we have learned them, don't matter at this moment. They can be used later on to give the person a different point of view of a card. But at this moment, it is important why the client has chosen the card. So even if you have the most positive card and the person has chosen it because he doesn't like it, that is not the moment for me to say, oh, but it is a very positive card. But it is important to find out why can he not see the positive part of the card. And that is more important than to know what the card means in a way we have learned it. At this moment, I just opened a small bracket. I will also make videos where I show that cards can be seen in a completely different light, that not every positive card only has a positive way to see at it, to look at it, or that a negative card is pure and simply negative. This way to learn by heart a certain meaning of a card can close actually some doors to get a more proper view, not simply of the cards, but also of the situation. So let's say that this card is the one that he doesn't like. So my first question is, why doesn't he like the card? And then he says, well, maybe it is the look the guy has on his face. You see all those cups behind him. The stars just fall on him and on nothing else. They aren't even falling into the cups. So it seems to be all about him. And maybe he's explaining to me that that is actually the way he feels about his life now living with his parents. Maybe he's an only child, and whatever comes, everything seems to be for him, and he doesn't feel good anymore in the situation that he just has to ask for something and he gets it, and that he has the feeling that as he hasn't worked for it, it might not have the same worth in a certain way. And the card that he likes might be this one. So normally the Five of Pentacles is one that is not seen in a very good way, but maybe he says, okay, you see, yes, it's snow this time, it's not stars, but it's falling everywhere. It's there for everybody. Or the same way that before something good was only for him, now you can say that snow is not the best thing, but it is for everyone. And he has the feeling that the people who are standing outside that church, they don't seem to be unhappy. So maybe they are aware that turning away from this institution gives them the possibility to do things by themselves and not just taking something from the goodwill of other people. And that maybe that is something that is important. And it could well be that in the conversation I have with that client, it shows that the way the parents treat him or treat the situation as a family comes close to something like an institution, and that it is sort of the church of parenthood could be a way the person is explaining it. And so this is the moment where it gets very clear what are the two parts inside of him. There is maybe a part inside of him that is still believing that it is, well, it's easy and he could lead that easy life, but there is another part in him that isn't content with it anymore. And that is the way one can start such a coaching. And next step in the coaching can be to let the people on both cards get into communication. What could the two of the five of pentacles tell the other one? Could they invite him to step out of that institution, out of that family, so that both parts feel good? Maybe the communication between those parts of personality, because that's actually what it is, maybe they can give him the idea to talk with his parents. Maybe they understand him and say, okay, you have the right, sure, you have the right to do your own things. And if there is a problem, you can always come back to us. So there are many issues, not a little bit, there are many issues that can come up during the different coachings. Now, it may seem to you that saying, okay, have a conversation with them, it sounds like fantasy. But this is an imagination, taps into our subconscious. And normally, the ideas people come up with are the ones they need to hear, and not from someone else, but out of their own mouth. So, those things are functioning, and how such a communication can work out, how the communication between persons who seem to be imaginary but to trigger something inside of ourselves can function. I will also try and show that in another video with an example. So thank you for watching and hope to see you again.